Welcome to BeerNet Radio. Listen to on every continent except Antarctica. BeerNet Radio.
Can you hear me?
Ow, check your booty. Yeah, just bring a little 70s to you on a sunny afternoon. Hot, KSAT.
We should all start going hot.
Hi. 102 out there. Suns ablazing. Keep it the shade, fellas. We got traffic on the 102. Keep it cool with a little LL Cool J. Baby got back.
Oh, God. All right, pot over.
All right. Let's go ahead and admit our guest.
Hey, great to meet you guys.
Hello,
Jen.
Jeff. Welcome to BeerNet Radio. My name's Harry. I'm glad to have you on. And we've got Jen and Jordan here on the line with me. We're all sitting in a hotel lobby, staring at each other, all on different Zooms.
I've done that before at different conferences I've been
Right.
at.
So we're in the same room. We're just not on the same computer. So, right, Jen? Wave at me, Jen. Yeah, that's how that works. Okay. All right, carry on, Jen.
Hey, Jeff, how are you? Good to meet you.
Yeah, great to connect with you, Jen.
Good. Well, welcome to the show, Jeff Nedeau. Am I saying Nedeau? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Awesome. Senior Director of Business Development at TapRM, a New York-based turnkey D2C platform helping suppliers reach new markets. There seem to be a lot of such programs, but this one has landed on Inc.'s top 100 of fastest growing private companies in America. So, Jeff, let's start with the basics. As I understand, you guys are an e-commerce platform for BevOut clients that ships to the end consumer in many states. So can you just explain the model in a nutshell for listeners?
Yeah, at a very high level, we offer brands a way to reach their consumer directly and do direct sales right through their brand site. So we'll facilitate the whole process, build the site, and move product through the compliant channels all the way to the consumer. Brands, the advantage of this and what's advantageous with brands working with us is that it's very proprietary. So the site looks and feels just like their actual site, and the consumer doesn't know that it's TapRM behind the scenes running and working with the product all the way through to the consumer. Gives them direct access to them, gives them the proprietary data that they need for growth as well.
And so tell me if I'm understanding this correctly, the way you guys stay 3-tier compliant is that you basically buy the brands from New York wholesalers, right? And then you ship them. Is that correct?
Yeah, so in New York, we have a very unique setup. We have a wholesaler license in New York, license to distribute, license to be the retailer, quote unquote, with the Home D license in New York. So what we've done since the beginning is really been a key partner for brands that want to get into New York, don't have the capability of working with a large distributor yet, and they can easily work with us. We don't hold any franchise rights for them. So we can bring them in, make them live for e-commerce in New York, and also we have a small B2B team as a secondary value add where we have accounts on the ground in New York City Metro. So we had our start there. That's where we're founded. Jason Sherman is the founder of TapRM. He had the foresight to obtain a license. So we're more than just a software company. We're like the nuts and bolts that a brand would need to be able to get into market, on a traditional level in New York, but also have the tools to be able to run e-commerce for brands that want to have same day delivery sales in New York. And now we have just about launched and have launched with some brands 45 state shipping from our fulfillment center in New York. So our center there, we can ship same day, we can ship within the state, and we can sell directly from that fulfillment center.
So you have a license in New York. Is that kind of a nice way to have a proving ground to kind of, because you get to see both ends of the transaction there in that instance? Yeah,
exactly. It's a good way for brands to be able to test the market with a low risk entry point. So they're not putting all their eggs in one basket. They're still doing the traditional work they need to do on the ground in markets that they have distribution in. But if they want to be in a market that they haven't been in, they can do that. Also, we can buy directly from distributors in New York, which we have a lot of the bigger ones. We did a tremendous amount of volume during COVID, as you can imagine, with buying in beer and being able to allow brands to sell direct to consumer at that point when there wasn't much going on the ground. So yeah, that it is an easy way for not only us to test the brand and see how well they perform, but for themselves too.
No, it just kicked me off. Oh, we're
Jen,
back.
Jen's got, well, I actually have one more question for you.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Harry. Yep.
Okay, so let's say I'm a brand and I don't know, do I go to? So where do you get the product? Like, how does that work? I guess.
Oh, everything happens in New York. So in our fulfillment center there, we're holding product for brands at a minimum level, depending on velocity. So when we initially bring a brand in, that's new to the market, we're going to take a minimum amount of product in, and depending on where they want to be live, they don't have to be live in all 45 states. They might want to be live in states where they don't have distribution. It's up to them to decide that, depending on their distribution agreements, with their distributors in those states. Some of them might want to avoid some of them that we can hit, you know what I mean? So it's really up to them on how they want to approach that. We don't want to get in the way of any of their relationships. So a lot of brands have liked this option because they don't want to start distribution in an area yet. They want to test the waters. They want to capture the data and use some of that data as leverage when they go to work with a distributor in one of those states. So that's another key piece to it. It's not only the impact of sales, but it's the knowledge that they're gaining with owning their consumer. So that's another really key point to this.
Because it does take, I would think, a lot of know-how and resources to ramp up your own DTC operation and mail house and being compliant. And if you just, it seems like a good way to test with very little risk, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, there's other third parties out there that can give you the software, like I was saying, and make you able to go to market, to go to your consumer, but and they'll give you the compliance too, but they're leaving pieces here or there that you've got to fill in the gaps for, such as picking or packing, or doing all the shipping yourself, or not being able to connect you through the right channels that you need across the country, things like that we kind of encompass the whole process.
I'm back. I think.
Oh, you're back. Okay. Nice job.
I think I'm back. So lots of interesting things here. So first of all, who are some of your breakout beer partners? Yeah.
I mean, we've represented, quite a few brands, here in New York and across the country. I don't want to list them all by name and in terms of what their success is, but there has been, performers that have overperformed, and there's been brands that we've brought on that, haven't reached where they wanted to go. And this brings me back to another point where that this platform really performs well with brands that are set up marketing wise. So we do all the tools, we do all the back end, we do all of the nuts and bolts of this, but the brand is really responsible for the marketing. So they really have to be prepared to drive traffic to the site. So there's brands that have killed it in that department, on TikTok or other social media, and have driven or using brand ambassadors or influencers or whatever, and have really done a lot of sales through that channel and have captured a lot of their consumer. And there's others that are still ramping that up. So without getting into, I don't want to start singling out different brands that we've worked with that have been better than others, but because I mean, all of them are in this because they want to grow in this channel and use it because it's for one, it's available in this country. Now we have the technology, we have the compliance, so they're utilizing it, but it's very much a process for some of them, and for others, they're just ready to go out of the gate. They have a whole list of people, they've got email lists, they've got contacts through social media, like I was saying. So that's a really key point for brands that may be listening, that you really want to think out your marketing plan. I mean, we have strategy on our end. We have case studies of what's worked best with what brands, and we can surely share strategy with them. without getting into the details of those brands, but we're first and foremost a company that is e-commerce first, and then the other channel of being able to work with fermented malt beverage brands into New York as our wholesaler. And I mean, this is a beer podcast, but we're also now working with RTDs and wine and spirits too, that I could get into if you guys want to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we cover it all. It's not just a,
Okay.
it's not just a beer world anymore, Jeff. It's anything you can put in a can. And
It is. True.
it's
true.
it's amazing. It's kind of exciting. It's a whole. It's kind of like, it feels like craft beer did back in like 2010.
Yeah, it does, especially on the RTD side, where you see this pivot happening. Consumers going away from seltzer back to light beers, right? And then you have some of those people ramping up to more premium RTDs, but generally a whole premiumization trend happening. I see. If you wanted to talk a little bit about the market out there, but so
what do you see as working best? Because I would think DTC, it's a different consumer. It's maybe a different occasion even. Is it different from general market?
Yeah, I think DTC, and this is the reason why we kind of stress New York as a same day delivery option, and we're going to have LA, but we have LA as a same day delivery option, and all of California from a retail partner over there. That's a value. That's like the Drizzly value. It's like the Go Puff value. But in this case, and that's where we see a lot of the interest in DTC, but in this case is Drizzly for a brand, not so hot. Go Puff for a brand, not that great for obtaining the customer, understanding the customer, being proprietary. They'll get you the product there fast, but you don't know who that consumer is. And this is what I talk to brands about all the time, because the immediacy of those platforms is great, but it's very much retailer centric, where this is very brand centric. And you really want to put, and this is one of the reasons why I'm in this space, is because you really want to have the responsibility for your own brand and its own growth, and not just depend upon the retailer or the distributor, even in that case. So that's where we see strength of, or the impact of DTC in its greatest value. But I think in the long run, it's just being able to get in, for a brand to be able to obtain a customer, serve a customer in an area where they don't even have distribution. They don't have distribution set up at all. And just being able to penetrate that market and being able to test it out, say, do we have a viable market to even want to put boots on the ground there? So big brands, small brands, all find value with that. We've worked with some of the, AB and Boston Beer on some different pilot programs. We're in the midst of one now with them in terms of really understanding who their customer is with a certain product.
That was one of my main questions too, like the data, right? Is that data sell to them, or what are you guys doing with the data in the next level?
Yeah, the data that's coming through their site, is the value to them. It's their data. They own it. We're not taking possession of that. That's one of the big selling features of what we're doing. And a lot of third parties will do that, but marketplaces as a whole don't do that. So if you're on a marketplace, and we even have one, you've probably seen taprm.com. That's where we started on the marketplace. And we still have that for brands as a value add. It doesn't cost them anything to be on it, working with us with a brand site, but they're not getting the emails or the personal contacts of their customer, information about their customer that they can use.
That's where all the value is. I mean,
exactly.
You're exactly right. I mean, you don't get anything back, I don't think, from Drizzly or Grok Puff. God bless them, they're great services. But you really do want at least the email of the customer, and also on these sites, to be honest, you're not going to get in the top 3 or 4 brands unless you're Modelo or Bud Light or Coors Light.
Yeah, Harry, you're exactly right. It's not to their detriment. They do outstanding things, Drizzly, Go Puff, Instacart. But yeah, you're not getting that higher or more condensed, more drilled down level of who your consumer is. And you made a great point there that small brands get lost there. It's Amazonian in the amount of product that's on there. And sometimes it's more product than just Bev Elk. So, I mean, it's more widespread. You have more visibility, but the using this type of product is going to really put the ball in your court, in your hands. You have more responsibility because you're walking a high wire, so to speak, with your site out there, and you got to worry about how many people are coming to it. You know, it really puts the onus on you, but I think the reward of that is greater.
Yeah. I talked with Jason last year, and one thing he told me that has stuck with me is how e-commerce is not necessarily a sales tool, but more of a marketing tool. And I know there are a lot of opponents against DTC, but as things stand now, can a brand actually build a sustainable business just off DTC sales?
That's a great question, Jordan. Yeah, I think Jason's right on with that too, but also, you know, it's a combination of things. And this is what I preach when I'm talking to brands too, is that to not think of it as solely as sales, you know, your approach to this should be omnichannel, omnipresent approach to marketing to your consumer. And that means doing the traditional stuff, doing DTC. There are brands that can make a go of it, small enough, nimble enough brands that can just use DTC, but that really comes down to just how well they're reacting with their consumer. If it's a brand that's really associated with either a celebrity figure or someone that can drive a lot of demand and interest in the product to get to the site, then you can probably sustain yourself. But for the average brand, or even, you know, bigger brands, it's another piece. It's another way of marketing to the consumer in an immediate way, directly. That's the real key component here. Is you're not relying on your retailer to promote you. You're not relying on your distribution partner to promote you. You're relying on you to promote you. And I come from the retailer background of B2C for the last 20 years, working in the wine industry and also in the other categories, selling direct to consumer in our retail shop. We have one here in the Boston area. I'm from Boston. And I always thought to myself, and this is the reason why I got into this, is that I'm here selling products that were created by other people, representing them. They don't know that I'm even selling these products in most cases, and representing them and understanding them and pitching them to my consumers. And I know my consumers, but that supplier, that winemaker, that brewer, that beer company has no idea who these people are that are walking out the door with that product. So with DTC, all of that's possible.
Yeah, it's kind of like Loverboy. I guess that's a good example of somebody promoting themselves and really ramping up the DTC platform.
Yeah, Loverboy is a good example. Nectar's another brand that has done really well social media wise, getting their name out there through social media and direct to consumer. Then there's, you know, others that have done just as well. Like I was saying, it just depends on where you are in the process of your growth.
All right. Well, that's interesting. Well, gosh, thank you, Jeff, for being on. That's anything else? Is there a message of hope for our readers?
Yeah, I mean,
give us an uplifting message.
Yeah, are you thinking in terms of?
No, I'm just being goofy, actually. Every time I wake up, we're either getting attacked by China or, you know, the government's folding or we're going broke. And I just want a message of hope. That's all.
Well, as it pertains to Bev Elk, no matter what is happening, the sales tend to, you know, they fluctuate up and down, but nothing is ever crashing in the Bev Elk space because of what's going on in the world. So
that's right.
If you want to relate it to that, but you know, as a whole, all the things that are going on, yeah, it's alarming. But we're in an industry that works for all occasions.
That's right. All right. Well, thanks you so much for being on BeerNet Radio, and good luck to you. It sounds like you guys got a good thing going.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jen. Thanks for connecting. Great to meet you guys. And yeah, I hope to run into you guys live soon at some point. But yeah, keep in touch.
All right, take care.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you guys. Bye.